Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're going to do something really cool. We're stepping right into the shoes of a time-traveling historian to trace how the mighty Nile and the shifting Ravi rivers literally birthed two of the most fascinating civilizations in human history. We're talking about Egypt and Lahore. Two entirely different worlds, completely bound by the life-giving force of water and somehow enduring through centuries of rise, ruin, and incredible rebirth.
So let's dive right into this massive historical puzzle. What exactly makes a civilization immortal? I mean, why do some majestic cities just crumble into dust, like Babylon or Carthage, while others continuously rise from their own ashes? To answer this, we're looking at the records of two ancient powerhouses, and specifically, the rivers that sustain them.
All right, Section 1, Rivers of Ancient Power, the Genesis of Egypt and Lahore.
You see, 5,000 years ago in Egypt and over 2,000 years ago in Lahore, survival basically boiled down to one thing: proximity to water. Before they were towering walls or massive armies, they were just people gathering by the riverbanks, just hoping to build a future. And look at the stark difference here. The mighty Nile gave a ruler named King Narmer the extreme wealth he needed to unite the land and build the world's first kingdom, literally launching a 5,000-year-old global superpower. On the flip side, the Ravi River provided this stubborn bedrock for a settlement first mapped by the Greek scholar Ptolemy in the 2nd century as Labokla. One river fueled absolute global dominance, while the other fueled this gritty, unyielding survival.
Now here's where it gets really fascinating. The ancient Hindu tradition actually calls Lahore Lava Puri, named after Lava, the son of Ram, who founded this settlement right by the Ravi River. But check this out. Even as the Ravi River physically shifted its course miles away from the original fort over the centuries, the people flat out refused to leave their foundational home. The river moved, but the city stayed planted. That is resilience.
Moving on to Section 2, Monuments of Extreme Wealth, Gods and Emperors.
So, when water fuels absolute economic dominance, how do you spend that massive, concentrated wealth? Well, we see a wild contrast here. In Egypt, the pharaohs got so incredibly wealthy from the river and, honestly, so arrogant that they claimed to be literal gods on earth. But, to be a god, your body has to survive until the end of time. So they came up with this visceral, morbid medical procedure. The surgeons would drain all the blood, extract the brain through the nose using a specialized hook, remove the organs, and then soak the body in salt water for 40 days. Finally, they'd stuff the empty shell with sand just to keep its shape, wrap it in white bandages, and entomb it with gold and food. And where do you even put a mummified god? Well, to house them, they built monuments of just staggering scale. Pharaoh Khufu built a pyramid so massively heavy, weighing more than 12 modern skyscrapers, and so enormous that, get this, you could easily park 2,000 large trucks right inside of it. Just a breathtaking display of ego and economic might.
But let's contrast Egypt's top-down vanity projects with Lahore. In Lahore, economic survival birthed this incredibly rich grassroots cultural and spiritual capital. Look at this timeline. In 1077 CE, Dada Ganj Bakshi establishes a spiritual center that draws thousands. Jump to 1584 CE, Akbar the Great actually moved the entire Mughal capital there. Then you get Shah Jahan's magnificent Shalimar Gardens with its 400 fountains. And in 1673, Aurangzeb builds the massive Badshah Mosque. Lahore's wealth wasn't hoarded. It was poured into a living, breathing social fabric that attracted European tourists, Arab traders, and Central Asian ambassadors.
It actually became so internationally renowned as a cultural beacon that the legendary English poet, John Milton, immortalized its grand status in his own writing, forever linking it with the absolute peak of the Mughal Empire.
Which brings us to Section 3, Empires on the Brink, Economic Drain and Relentless Invasions.
But history always tells us that where there's immense power, near total collapse is usually right around the corner. We can literally see the internal collapse of Egypt in the numbers. The staggering cost of building those massive pyramids completely bankrupted Egypt's economy, and this economic desperation led a new pharaoh to brutally oppress and enslave the Bani Israel for 400 years, just to maintain their grip on power. This dark chapter only ended when Prophet Musa challenged Pharaoh Ramses. Ramses, completely blinded by his own arrogance, chased the fleeing Israelites and lost his entire army to the sea. It destroyed a 3,000-year-old empire and plunged Egypt straight into the Dark Ages.
Now, while Egypt was destroying itself from the inside out, Lahore was facing the ultimate external nightmare. Down from the mountains came Genghis Khan's descendants. Tracing this devastating timeline, starting in 1241, the Mongols launched a rapid-fire succession of brutal invasions. They breached and burned the city. Then they struck again in 1246 and 1285 and 1287. Over the decades, Lahore's population was reduced to mere thousands. And this is the crucial part. When the Mongols attacked in 1241, the governor totally abandoned the city, surrendered and fled. The city was left completely defenseless. But it was Lahore's ordinary citizens, the shopkeepers, the artisans, the laborers, who stubbornly picked up weapons and fought the fearsome Mongols in every single street and at every doorway. Yes, they were slaughtered, and yes, the city was burned to ashes, but they proved the city's incredible, unbreakable social resilience.
Okay, Section 4. Rebirth from the Ashes, Prophets, and Kings.
So, how exactly do forever cities crawl back from the brink of absolute destruction? Well, for Egypt, the answer was always the river. Because the mighty Nile was still there, the land remained this highly coveted prize. We see these incredible cycles of rebirth. Early on, an economic revival was brilliantly orchestrated by Prophet Yusuf, saving the land from ruin. Later, it was conquered by Alexander the Great, then ruled by the mighty Roman Empire for 600 years, and eventually captured by Muslims under the leadership of Umar bin Khattab. Basically, as long as the water flowed, empires wanted Egypt.
Meanwhile, the rebirth of Lahore looked completely different. Picture this, it's 1799, and an 18-year-old, one-eyed, visionary named Ranjit Singh stands at the city gates. He captures Lahore, but he doesn't destroy it. Instead, he transforms this battered, repeatedly invaded city back into a ferocious empire, one so incredibly powerful that it actually stopped the expanding British Empire from crossing the Sutlej River for decades.
And what's truly amazing here is the makeup of his inner circle. If we look at the evidence from his court, we see Ranjit Singh brilliantly uniting a vastly diverse population. I mean, he had Hindu ministers, Muslim generals, Sikh leaders, and even French and Italian officers. This perfectly proves Lahore's completely unique historical ability to forge wildly different cultures into a single, unbreakable social fabric.
This leads us to our final part, Section 5. The immortal legacies, ideas that outlive empires.
So, what is the ultimate takeaway from these two river civilizations? It's a pretty stark difference, actually. Egypt left behind breathtaking but ultimately empty stone tombs. The pyramids stand today as silent relics, testaments to fallen, arrogant kings who tried to conquer death through architecture. Whereas Lahore, shaped by the shifting Ravi, continued to be a living, breathing ideological incubator. Even under the eventual rule of the British, Lahore didn't just become a museum, it became a battlefield for the minds of its people.
It was actually right there, sitting in a room at Government College Lahore, that the scholar Allama Iqbal penned this absolutely powerful poetry. Translated, it means, elevate yourself so high that before every decree, God himself asks you, tell me, what is your desire? This wasn't just pretty poetry, you guys. It was an ideological earthquake that awakened a sleeping nation, leading directly to the 1940 Lahore Resolution and the physical creation of the country of Pakistan. Lahore literally dreamed a nation into existence.
So, as we wrap up this explainer, we really have to ask ourselves, looking back at this monumental 5,000-year saga of the Nile and the 2,000-year gritty spiritual survival of Lahore, do our modern concrete cities have that same structural and cultural resilience? Think about it.